What happens when 90% of the media is controlled or owned by 6 corporations? What happens when those same corporations are operated and controlled by a political ideology? What happens when the news is no longer free from bias? What happens when the news is no longer reliable and independent? What happens when the news is no longer trustworthy? Fact becomes fiction? Fiction becomes fact? When does news become propaganda?
America's not the government, people. The America is you. It is the Grand fucking Canyon, the Rocky Mountains, the deserts of the Southwest, the Pacific fucking Ocean, the Atlantic fucking Ocean. It is the grandest continent. And what the fuck have you people done? You have turned yourself into sheep, every goddamn one of you.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
All right. Hi, guys. Welcome. Thanks for getting here. G. Graham, be safe. That's hilarious. And Tucker is a hero. There's a lot of heroes out there right now. I don't know if Johnny fell asleep. It is an hour later for him, and this went. It was a 2-hour long interview. Putin started off with, are we having a serious conversation or is this a show? And I think we all know, like, we're all getting kind of tired of the show. And so Tucker said, no, it's a serious conversation. And so he went into this really, like, let me start at the beginning. And I think, like, in America, we have this short history and we've all been, used to everything completed in a 30-minute, what are they called? The little, TV shows or whatever. And he's like, well, back in 1618, under Catherine the Great, that's always been part of Russia. And from this part of Ukraine was, and so basically, to give you the cliff notes, it's a fake war in a fake country. And at the very end of the interview, he wraps it up and he says, let me tell you a story where the Russians surround this group of Ukraine warriors or soldiers or whatever, and they surround them and say, you're surrounded, come out, and we won't kill you or whatever. And the Ukrainian soldiers identify themselves as Russians and say, like, we're Russian too. And apparently the Ukrainian Orthodox Church is being dismantled right now. And so he says something like, when you dismantle the like what separates us, then the soul can come back together. And then, because he talks about, Tucker keeps trying to get to, like, how do you come to a solution? How do you come to a solution? And basically, Putin goes through the whole history of how the powers that be, which is typically not whoever is the president, but how Condoleezza Rice came in after agreements were made with presidents with him, and then people would sign documents, all kinds of things, and then promises were thrown out. He's been lied to, promises were made, he's been told he could be in NATO, then told no, you can't, you're not allowed to be part of the club. He's been, and then as things would happen, before you know it, they turn around and he's got NATO and military bases in his backyard. I mean, can you imagine if we had who we saw as a threat putting up their military bases in Mexico or something, and that's what, Ukraine is basically a US military base satellite to Russia and threat. He even made a statement that he had gone to, was it Bush? I think it was when Bush Jr. was in office. It was either Bush or Clinton, I can't remember now. And he said, why don't we come together, Europe, Russia, and the US, and come together and have the missile system together to protect against Iran. And they said, are you serious? And he's like, yeah, I'm serious, but they didn't want that. They wanted to be able to weaken Russia, to have them as the enemy. And he went into this really long thing about denazification, how that was one of his goals, was to, because the area of Ukraine, they had kind of like the name stealer thing that Uncle Cliff talks about, that there has been an effort to get some groups of people in that area to identify with the Nazi movement and to be proud of that. And he goes into the whole history of that. And he says, I mean, look, they showed you, was it the president or the prime minister of Canada? I can't remember, the one that that cheered for that Nazi guy when they brought in that World War II Nazi, and they cheered for him. Just were like, it'd be great if I had Johnny here. Johnny, I wish your internet was working or you're awake or whatever happened. I don't know what happened. I'm trying to wing it and do this by myself. But it's a really powerful interview speech. And it seems very sincere. He also mentioned that because Tucker says, why, if you have this proof of, he asks about who blew up Nord Stream, and Putin goes into he goes, well, you did. And Tucker says, oh, no, I was busy that day, and then he says, well, no, but the CIA. And he blatantly talks about, like, there's these, the powers that be put us in this situation, and they need to find a way out of it. And some of that needs to happen quietly. And it's very interesting to see how complex all this is behind the scenes. It's just not as simple as we all hope that it is some days. So, I hope you guys can take some time and maybe break it up into, oh, there's the boss. Break it up into some, did you fall asleep or did you lose Wi-Fi?
I actually had to run out. I was cleaning. I actually did I was cleaning while
you were listening to it?
I was. I had to run out to the store. I forgot and get some stuff. So I got through with most. It was a long interview.
It's long, 2 hours long. Yeah.
I'm at an hour 45 is where I stopped at. So I got most of it. I think the
Oh boy,
end is great. It talks about the best stuff, though. I feel like.
Yeah. Well, and he dropped some comms at the end. I felt like when they were talking about releasing the spy, Tucker was asking about, we're holding this American spy, whatever. Would you release him? And and Putin's like, I don't want to keep him here. And he's like, and it's more dog stuff. You know how I was hearing, and I talked to you about that earlier today, how Hillary was saying, calling Tucker a puppy, Putin's puppy,
Yep.
and Trump was saying
Uncle Cliff.
Uncle Cliff and Uncle Trump, Daddy Trump. Trump was saying that if Sleepy Joe couldn't speak at the Super Bowl, that he would speak and he'd make it look like a puppy bowl. And then Putin tonight said about the spy being returned, he said, let him go back, let all the dogs go, or let all the dogs go back or go home, something like that. And yeah, I'd love to go back through and like calm it out, because I was just watching it the first time all the way through, like just trying to kind of take it all.
It's an interview. He started slow. He talked a lot about the history of
yes,
Russia and
Poland.
Poland and Ukraine, and he went back to like the Tsar, and he really went back. He went back to the Soviet Union, and it's definitely one that I would watch twice.
Yeah, I think it's a great educational piece for everybody. Because I was just saying before you jumped on, like, America does not, we're such a young country, and to hear that, it was funny watching Tucker, because he was like making all these faces. He's like, why are you telling me this? Like, who cares about 1600? But it is part of it's part of his culture, and he understands the importance of it. And because to Putin, it's so ridiculous that we think that Ukraine is not part of Russia. And that's where, when he ended the speech, which you haven't got to this part yet, but he ends it saying that there's soldiers are surrounding the Ukraine soldiers, and they say, come out and we won't hurt you or whatever, or you won't be killed. And instead, the Ukraine soldiers identify themselves as Russians and come and stand with them. And the Ukrainian Orthodox Church is being destroyed right now. And Putin says something about, because then our souls will be together and we can never be destroyed again. So it's very interesting.
When did he talk about January 6th? I guess that was at the end as well.
I didn't hear the J6 thing. I must have ran and got a beer or took the dogs out or something. Did you hear the J6?
I didn't, but I heard, like, when they were talking about what he was going to say before it, they said he like kind of destroyed the whole January 6th narrative. I think Greg K is right, though. The entire narrative of Russia being the bad guy has been destroyed.
No, we have. Well, when I say we, the U.S. being part of and the biggest funder of NATO. And that's where, like, NATO and these superpowers that have come together to bully other countries and then taken back their word. He's multiple times been at a position of strength, and then they go, stand down, and we'll take our whatever off your property, or we'll do if you do this, we'll do that. And he goes, okay. And this is his version, and then they move in closer. He backs down and they move in closer. And now there's military bases in Ukraine in his backyard. And I was saying, that's like the equivalent of, when we had the Cuban crisis, I guess. But even worse than that, that would be like us having China in Mexico or something. Military bases in Mexico.
Yeah, 100%. It's you wonder why have they put such an emphasis on Russia being the bad guy. And
yeah, that was funny.
Putin couldn't remember the last time he spoke to Biden.
He was very careful about how he said all that too.
He was, but he did let it on that the U.S. president isn't really the one in charge, which I've always said, like, the president's typically a front man, and for the real people.
And he said then Condoleezza Rice and which would be the Secretary of State and the DOD. I couldn't remember who he said came in and sat at that table and then told him what the deal was going to be. He said they sat right here at this table after he made a deal with
Bush,
Clinton?
I guess, right? Or was it Clinton?
Or was it Bush? I can't remember.
Yeah, it just goes to show you how, and then are they even the real people in charge? I feel like the real people in charge are like these banking elites. You got like the, then you got like the Rothschilds, you got like the WEF, the people that show up.
He brought that up. Yeah, he brought that up too, because he said, well, if you have proof of who did that to Nord Stream, why don't you expose it? And he kind of laughed and he said, well, you guys own all of the media, not just the West, but most of Europe's media as well, because you control the money. But he did also talk about the U.S. dollar and how that was the dumbest thing to do, was weaponize the dollar, and you really cut your nose off to spite your face when you kicked everybody out of the SWIFT with sanctions.
Yeah, I mean, it's he goes, we didn't decide to stop using the dollar. He goes, you guys decided that. If you think about it, what are they? And if you looked at a chart back then of ruble to dollar, at first the ruble crashed against the dollar and then it stormed back. So it didn't have any. Greg K said Putin mentioned the dollar and our $34 trillion debt numerous times. He did. And he kind of alluded to the fact that how these dollars are quickly dispersed all over the world, which is, there's the fact that we're the world reserve currency is the reason we haven't seen hyperinflation. We wouldn't have been able to print this much and be 34 trillion in debt without hyperinflation if we weren't the reserve currency of the world. So we're kind of insulated, I guess, to a large degree. How bad do things have to get before we actually see hyperinflation here? I don't know, but yeah, he did mention that. He brought up a lot of good stuff. It's he doesn't seem like just go off his energy.
Yeah, he actually seemed like a gentleman, to be honest.
He seems like a gentleman. He seems respectful. He seems the opposite of how they try to portray him. He seems like an intelligent individual. But you just wonder why, this narrative so against them. And
he also had that old soul kind of thing where he was like, Tucker was doing what we now know is a fear porn narrative that they've been using on us. Oh, well, aren't you afraid of China? Like, if you're going to be part of BRICS, they're going to overpower you, and you should come with us because you don't want to be part of China in BRICS because they'll overpower you. And Putin's like, we've been neighbors and shared over 1,000 miles of border with China for thousands of years. Like, we work it out with them. And he's like,
he said China generally tries to
compromise.
compromise. And, you know, it seems like we're the ones that don't try to compromise, if you think about it.
Yeah.
You know, now, to me, us calling this out is us being very patriotic, very about the Constitution, very American. You know, I try to explain that to people. I said, you know, I'm very about America, but that doesn't mean this crap. It's about calling out the crap that they're feeding us.
Very much about
Not about going along with this garbage.
Yeah, doing what's best for we the people.
We the people. They want you to think, oh, you're a good American if you drink beer and have a Super Bowl party. It's like that fake BS. You know what I mean? Why don't we call out what they're doing? And, you know, it's
well, because that 34 billion
34 trillion.
How trillion? I'm sorry. How much went to? So today, that bill actually did pass without any support to the border, and it went to an old what's her name, Raggedy Ann, was speaking, and they asked her about it, and she said, well, you know, we've got to get support to Israel. They've got to get a wall up to support and protect themselves. Meanwhile, Texas doesn't need a wall, they don't think. Texas doesn't need a wall. Not a dime to our border, but we got to get a wall over there to Israel. And we've got to send some money over there to Israel and more money to Ukraine to fund this war against what is and was Russia.
I heard we were funding their pension plans in Ukraine. I mean, this is insane. Yeah. And you know, if there's American children without food and without stuff, I don't want to do anything. Internet, you take care of your own first. You know, that's being patriotic. And they want you to think, oh, be a good little government debt slave. You know, go to school, get a job, work hard, pay your tax. And that's a good American.
Yeah, that's coming. I think that's one way that we all really could speak loudly by voting with our dollars.
Yeah. And then, you know, they feed you this narrative, but then if you study like Robert Kiyosaki, you know, the smartest, wealthiest people pay no tax. Legally they pay no tax. And how they do it is they're doing exactly, if you think about it, what the government wants them to do, because they're taking advantage of the tax credits in the system. The tax credits are there to do kind of the dirty work of the government that they don't want to do. So people take advantage of it. But normies will say, oh, no, that's cheating. It's not cheating. They're doing the dirty work of the government. They're getting rewarded for it. They just tell you, get this W-2 job, pay your tax like a good little slave, invest in the stock market. You know what I mean? And just getting that little hamster wheel. And
so that they can manipulate the rest of it.
Maybe if you start saving when your kid's 2 years old, you can afford college.
If not, take out a loan so they can be
out a loan
the rest of their life.
Loan.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I just had a thought and I just went right out of my brain.
You know, and then they get you more. You know, then they get you more in debt. I think it's Greg K actually that was telling me about how the student loans they start accruing interest day one. So he said he would have thought, I actually would have thought too, it doesn't start getting accruing interest until you're out of school or graduated. No, it starts day one. So you're already like, forget the cost of a college tuition, tack the interest on top of that. You're so far behind the 8 ball by the time you get out, and it's an insane.
Oh, that was my thought. So what if So I also saw right before this started, Governor Abbott from Texas gave a speech and said, like he's standing up for Texas. And then everybody's like, what do you mean you're standing up? And he's like, well, we're going to defend the Texas border and we're here and we're going to do the right thing and whatever. And so I don't know what's going to happen over the weekend, but what if Texas were to secede and then join BRICS?
That'd be kind of wild.
Wouldn't that be wild?
That would be kind of wild. It'd be kind of wild. The thing is, my beef with this whole, I know there's a lot of talk about the border stuff right now.
Right.
To me, it goes way past the border and all this. If we had sound money, no one would come here.
Yes.
That's what they don't want us to focus on that fact. They want us to focus on, they sensationalize a lot of stuff. So they focus on this border situation. Why are people coming? Well, other countries don't have this problem. Why are people coming here? And it's not because there's such opportunity here. The opportunity is they give you everything when you come here. And we don't have sound money. That's how they're giving away everything. If we had sound money and if our money was backed by silver or gold or anything with resource or anything that's scarce, we wouldn't be able to fund wars. We wouldn't be able to give everything away. So we'd have peace in the world. And naturally, we wouldn't even have to worry about a border because no one would want to come here. People would say, oh, I'm getting the hell out of there. They're 34 trillion in debt. And actually, if the government's not involved, there's not much opportunity there. It's
right. And if there's no handouts,
no handouts.
Sure, come and work hard and be a part of the community and contribute. That's great, but there's no handouts here. Yeah. So one of the things that governors did, well, a lot of governors did during the Great Infection was back their state treasuries or support their state treasuries with gold and silver. And one of the things that Governor Stitt said was that was to avoid federal taxes, that we wouldn't be taxed, our state wouldn't be taxed on, or to avoid federal taxes. So I don't know if that's also applies to individuals. If you have gold and silver in your possession, then you don't pay tax on that. I'm not sure the rules of all that.
Well, I think the rule would be,
I guess because you didn't sell it, so you didn't have.
And I think the rule is if you sell it, it's treated as currency.
Oh, because then they changed the rule to be legal tender or whatever. So then it's currency.
Legal tender, then you can't be taxed on a capital gain.
Cool. So in Arkansas and in Texas, I know it is legal tender. I'm not sure what other states gold and silver is legal tender. Well, actually, constitutionally, it's legal tender, right? Because it's.
Yeah, but as we know, they don't go by the Constitution. And so if they went by the Constitution, there wouldn't be an IRS. There wouldn't be all this stuff. They wouldn't have done the Patriot Act to us. Wouldn't have any national debt because if we were going by the Constitution, the dollar would be a certain amount of grains of silver,
right?
Which I think in ounce wise, $1 would be equivalent to 0.7734, which that's a Morgan dollar. So a Morgan dollar is actually the last time the U.S. issued constitutional money. So people think that people call junk silver constitutional money. I don't. And that's the reason being, if you take 4 quarters from 1964, that doesn't equal 0.7734 of an ounce of silver. That's like 0.72 or 0.73.
I had heard it's the same amount as a peso, that's where they came up with that beginning amount. I don't know if that's true.
I'm not sure about that. So they already, when they when they started issuing the when junk silver was in circulation. Still had silver in it, which is great, but it wasn't what was defined in the Constitution as a dollar. They were already taking it away from us, and then they just took it away completely. Yeah, it's funny how they don't follow the Constitution. They get away with it, and then you're considered if you reference the Constitution to the point where they consider you a domestic terrorist. Well, you're talking about the Constitution.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know?
that's crazy. Well, they have to save the democracy that we're not, because we're a republic, as Durand is
Well, that's
pointing
why
out
they say
in
we're a
chat.
democracy, we're a democracy, we're a
Yeah.
democracy. They put
Crazy.
that Jim Montgomery, even the Romans removed silver from coinage. Yeah, actually, that's why the edge of a silver coin is ridged, because they used to shave the outside of it to shave them down. So they started making it ridged so you can't shave down the outside. Yeah, you're right. A pre-1965 quarter can buy a gallon of gas. Exactly, it can. My just argument is that it's not equivalent to what was in the Constitution defined as a dollar, and that was the Morgan dollar. Was the last time they issued constitutional money. There's a reason a Morgan weighs 0.7734 of an ounce, and it has a $1 face value. Morgan dollar. Those were dollars that circulated, because they didn't just pick that weight at random. That was what was defined in the and Morgans were in circulation before the Federal Reserve got involved. So that was really the takeover by the Rothschild banking elites of the United States. And, those, not that they're the only people in charge, but it's people like that are the real people in charge.
That's who I think Putin was alluding to.
Yeah.
Is, that's who's really making those decisions, and the three-letter agencies and the people that are, moving all the puppet strings.
Yeah. And look at even the British royal family. They own, I heard, up to 1/6 of the property across the world. Now, we were taught as kids they don't have any power anymore. It's Parliament. They don't have any power anymore. Even as a kid, I didn't follow this stuff, but I just said, well, how'd they lose the power? And there was never a clear answer. So I said there was no war. How'd they lose the power? They just gave it up? No one just gives up power. There's always a war. There's some type of event. They gave up the power to the public because they took over more power by taking it over behind the scenes. There are people like that are the real ones in charge. And they just don't. They want us to think, oh, it's, Biden's in charge. Biden's in charge. I mean, the guy's not. I don't even think that. I think it's a. I think the real Biden's dead. Personally, I mean,
yeah, he's shot. He's shot.
He's dead. Whoever this is, they're using a Biden.
million times.
He doesn't have blue eyes. So first of all, whatever guy they use has black eyes. The real Biden had blue eyes. That's number one. They've done a lot of facial recognition. It's a different guy.
Yeah.
So why are they using a guy like this? It's almost like they're rubbing it in our face, this senile man. And it's like,
that was what Putin said. I want to be diplomatic, but we don't believe he's running the country. We have sources to confirm it. I'm sure it's plain for you to see as well. He struggles to speak, is unsteady. He looks lost.
Yeah. Now, I did question Putin kind of praised Bush. That was a little...
That was odd.
That was odd. He kind of said he's a country boy.
Said he was smart.
Yeah, that to me was weird because obviously we know, we obviously know their backstory and all that.
But was he saying more like he's not what he's presenting as? Like he's not a good old boy? there's more there. You know what I mean?
He could have been alluding to that. You don't know. You don't know.
I guess he didn't necessarily say he was smart. If you go back and listen to it, he just said that he's presented, or how did he say it now? Like in my head, I was thinking, oh, is he saying he's smart? But now that I think about it, I think he was just saying that they present him as, or they say that he's this country bumpkin, but he's really not. And so does that mean because he's an elite? Is that what he was trying to say?
I don't know what he was alluding to.
Yeah,
that was strange because to me, when I was growing up, I mean, they were the worse than the Clintons even. Now obviously Hillary's bad, Bill Clinton's bad. We know that, but Bush was around when they did 9/11 to us. That was on his watch.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was the worst stuff that they've done to us? Who was in charge? So to me, Bush, and it was the Bush family. Bush Sr. was involved in whacking Kennedy. I mean, I've seen a video where Bush Sr., they did what's it called when they profile somebody, but they show Bush Sr. was there. There's video footage of him being there, and they showed how he has his hand in his pocket and all this stuff. It's how he moves. You could tell by how somebody moves in certain things.
Oh, really?
When too many things line up, it becomes statistically unlikely that it's the statistical likelihood of it being that person.
Okay, then I go deep what if woo on you, because I watched the Jay Widener JFKX thing where JFK may have faked his own death. Like, what if this whole thing is, this movie's been going on even longer than we thought?
Yeah,
what if this has been to a longer thing to get the bad guys out since JFK faked his own death? And they really, I mean, I'm getting chills thinking about that. And they took out Bush Sr. then, and this has been an effort to get all the generations out since then. And we're in the culmination of this now, and it's taken this long.
So I guess that would go a little bit with, I have two theories on how the world works. One of them is, they're not being straight with us about Putin and that stuff. And,
right.
Who's the good guys, who's the bad guys. But my other theory is that they're all in cahoots against us. They're all playing their part. Putin, the U.S., Ukraine, Iran. It's us versus them, and they're all just playing their role to get us. China, they're all on the same team, us versus them. And they're all the bad guys, and it's all just against us as the people. I guess that theory would go kind of in line a little bit, that they're all just kind of against us. I don't know if
do they even care about us? Are we just ants to them, and they're busy having their big great war of the elite?
They could have used a body double that day at JFK. I've seen pictures. I mean, there was a picture floating around on Twitter of JFK next to his body double. I mean,
I've seen that too. Look
just like him. So what if they floated the body double out there that day? And so it's you don't know what they're capable of. I mean, these are the same people that did they let Pearl Harbor happen. They started Vietnam War with that, what was it, the Gulf of Tonkin thing or whatever
Right.
that was. They did
They
the
let
moon
9/11 happen.
They did the moon landing to us. They did 9/11. They did COVID.
They did Oklahoma City. They did.
I mean, they've done it all.
They did all of it.
Done it all. So they did the Federal Reserve to us. They, they probably sunk the Titanic. So they're capable of everything. I think that's what people got to get in their heads, that, oh, well, they wouldn't kill people. I don't know how many people died during 9/11. I don't know. And, we were supposed to believe it was, I even watched a video about how
the building was empty.
Not only like 9/11, you can't, an untrained pilot, now they say, they went to flight school in the U.S., you can't fly a plane like that into a building and hit it exactly. I mean, you have to be like the most trained pilot in the world to do that. Right. We're supposed to believe some guys that went to flight school a few times did that. I mean, it doesn't.
Well, and the building didn't lean at all. Like the plane just went into it and dissolved into it, and nothing fell down, and then it totally fell straight down. And then don't forget about Building 7, because everybody forgets about Building 7.
No one knows about that. You say Building
that fell and was nowhere near it. Yeah.
No one knows about Building 7.
Nobody knows about it.
So yeah, this is a tough pill for most people to swallow. Most people, and they say, oh, you guys are, this is calling this out as being pro-American.
Here's the other thing, though. Are we falling into this? Because while all eyes were on this, right? Everybody's talking about this. But what really happened today was the funding for the Israel and Ukraine, more money went over there. Also, the Supreme Court was, I thought, supposed to hear it tomorrow, or that's the information I had found. They were hearing Trump's case today about the, well, maybe there's two different cases. So maybe tomorrow is about the 2020 election in the Supreme Court. Today was the Supreme Court hearing about being on the ballot in Colorado. Today was the J6, the insurrection thing, the hearing about the ballot, being on the ballot in Colorado. And I guess a lot of people were being told, like, oh, they're gonna, they're this right-wing Supreme Court is going to step on all these people in Colorado's rights and blah, blah, blah. And it got down to this Section 3 issue, and where they were saying, like, well, basically, like, the person can't apply to the Secretary of State until they like win, and then yes, the Secretary of State can like say yes, you're denied because you're an insurrectionist or not. But remember, he was never accused or never convicted of that, so there's that whole issue. But it's just really interesting how it's all going down. But basically, they were just not falling for it. But they were asking really good questions, and it was a really fair hearing. I put a lot of it on the Telegram group. If you guys aren't on the Telegram group, you should join the Telegram group. And
the thing is with the J6 thing, how the media, I mean, talk about Operation Mockingbird in full effect. Mm-hmm. How they played that after Jay. Now, if you just look at it, forget your political views, forget all that. If you just look at it as saying, I hate politics, I don't like any of these people. Well, how the hell did people get into that building, the Capitol, that quick on that day? That doesn't make any kind of sense. And so that doesn't add up.
No, it doesn't.
How the media responded to it. Then it just was such a setup. I mean, it was so clear that whole thing was a setup. The fact that people can't see that is because it goes against, they painted a picture and they made one side say that's the enemy that was in there that day. And it's just, so it's, but how did people not see that was such a setup? That to me was what was the most, forget your views. How did they get into the Capitol within a matter of minutes? I mean, the U.S. Capitol during that time.
Well, they moved the barriers for him and opened the doors and let him in.
Right, they let him in. Exactly, they let him in. So that's the thing. That's
how they did it.
That's how they did it, of course, of course. And then people say, "Oh, it's crazy to think that the FBI or there was these agent provocateurs there." This has always went on in the history of the U.S. There's people called confidential informants. Then there's undercover.
And we pay them with our tax money.
And forget even there's undercover. And they say, oh, well, that's entrapment. Bullshit. These people will try to do anything they can to set you up and convince you to commit these crimes to advance their narrative or political agenda. And then they'll also do anything they can to cover up crimes that they don't want to blow their case. So it's a sick system that we're in. It's not a justice system. It's a political witch hunt. Who do they want to go after? Who do they have the incentive to go after? And it's this has always been, what they've done. They cover up certain things. They go after certain things. I remember a kid in Connecticut. I remember they were investigating a lot of mayors there went to prison for corruption. Oh, it's great. Did you see?
That's what I was but I was trying not to interrupt you. Sorry. So
did you guys see that Biden addressed the nation tonight regarding the classified docs case?
They decided not to prosecute him. I'm sure that it was fire the prosecutor and I'll send the money again. What do you want to bet? That famous quote again. So the prosecutor decided not to prosecute Biden, even though he does not, because at the time that he was had the classified documents, he did not have presidential immunity because he wasn't a president at the time.
Wasn't a president.
He was a senator or something, and or the vice president. So he should not have immunity from that. But that's just to show you how corrupt it is. So they're going after Trump. I mean, this is just to rub it in your face. The border stuff, sending Israel money for a border when Texas doesn't have a border, not prosecuting Biden when he shouldn't have presidential immunity, and going after Trump when he should. Like, it's so blatant.
And then this, correct, Johnny, many events are able to cover up other crimes, especially crimes against humanity, targeting, harming of individuals via various systems, programs. Yeah. It's amazing what they deem as worse than other stuff. So it's, I've seen crazy. I was telling about that story about the mayors in Connecticut. The FBI tried to destroy evidence. They caught the mayor on a wiretap molesting children.
Oh my God.
And they destroyed the evidence because they said they don't want to blow their case against them because they were investigating him for something called bid rigging, which was involved with mafia stuff of
who cares?
Rigging. But that's worse to them than molesting children. And it was, you could look this up. It was the mayor of Waterbury. His name was Giordano. This is back in probably the 90s or 2000s. And they figured it out, and they they had to, probably one of the good guys behind the scenes was like, we're not getting rid of this. This is worse than what we're investigating him for. But they'll do anything. They'll let anybody out of their crimes to get other people to go after what they want to get. And that's like J6. They obviously did that whole thing to us, to we the people. They caused it. They manipulated people.
Nancy is responsible for Capitol safety, and Trump called her, I don't know how many times, and asked, do you want military or do you want support or whatever? And she denied it and refused to have extra support or security there. So, I mean, it's all on her.
Even after that whole thing, how all the politicians were like, they all played the same role of this. They were all like, and it was just such fakery. It's like, shut the fuck up. Fuck up.
Yeah.
My God. And
it's like Nancy was getting her close up by her daughter filming her through the whole thing. You know,
that's a Putin brought up. I didn't see it, but I heard it in a maybe Tucker didn't air it, but he brought up about, didn't Capitol Police kill someone unarmed in the Capitol? And he brought up about Ashley Babbitt.
Oh, I didn't hear that on the interview.
Now, I didn't get to that. I didn't get through the whole thing yet, but I saw that going around on Twitter before. I don't know why that. Maybe that was maybe he did it out. I don't know. Maybe there was other parts of that he didn't.
There may be. Yeah.
Yeah. So he. It's interesting, but it's all. It's all a setup. What about the summer of 2020? All the riots that happened, and they were hiring crisis actors. I remember J-Snip 4 on his show. Some woman called in and said how she was harassed at a rest area. Her husband and her son were harassed. It was a bus load of people. They all had a debit card with like $46 or something. And it was like, something like $50, something like that. And they were going to New York or Philly. And there was multiple reports of bus loads of people going to New York and Philly. And it was like, not the best class of people going there. Like very like people they got out of like, probably like, halfway house type of places. People that were really like
down on their luck kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Nothing to lose. In other words, hey, we're going to feed you, give you a debit card, and get your ass to New York City and protest. Or get to these cities and protest. So, that's why we say people don't like New Jersey. But I say, well, we were the only state then that didn't have the rioting. And we were the only state that did not have any rioting. And
I don't think we did in Oklahoma.
Maybe you did in Oklahoma.
Oh, no, I take that back. We did. We had downtown because it was right after Charlie got fired, and his boss's downtown office got broken into, and I thought, well, karma's a bitch. They busted the windows out, and
we didn't have any in Jersey because a lot of ethnic groups still live in cities. They own stuff there. They own properties, and you ain't going to those neighborhoods and wrecking stuff. And in Newark, I remember they were actually protesting, but not breaking shit and wrecking shit. And like Antifa and stuff came, and they said, absolutely not. We're here to, which I respect if people want to protest the right way and all that. You're not breaking
shit. Damage people's personal property.
100%. Like, and they kicked everyone the hell out of there. And I remember there was videos of people. There's a lady, name was like Letitia Jackson or something like that, and she was like going around. She was filming people, and then they cleaned house down there in Newark, and they
interesting.
Yeah, so Jersey, they didn't allow it. So that's why I say, don't don't listen to the media, this red state, blue state bullshit, because if you watch the news, New Jersey's so liberal, this and that, it's like, I don't know. I don't screw around here. And you know what I mean? So it's
I think that's what Putin is saying at the end. It came back to a we the people thing, the fake thing, the fake country that was created by the lie, when he goes through and explains how they came in and NATO set up this thing and said that Ukraine is a separate country, and it's not. It's part of Poland, parts of Germany, parts of Russia, and he said, and now it's going to be healed, and it's going to be what it always has been. Stop calling it the fake thing. You know what I mean? And then when our souls are united again, when we are one, which goes back to the Kim Clemente prophecy thing. And that's where they have been telling us we are red and blue. We are against each other, that there's going to be civil war. I'm like, against who? I'm not mad at my neighbor, my fellow American. I'm mad at the Fed, that, the powers that be, that made us all slaves and stole our labor, and our children's, try to enslave our children. That's who I'm mad at. So, and that's when, when we throw that off, then we will become one, and then we'll have peace, So I thought it was really good.
So he said, okay, so, but did they wreck stuff? That's my question. Was there protesting, or did they actually riot and wreck things? And that's what there was protesting, but nothing got destroyed. And that was my point. Now, South Jersey is different than North Jersey. It's two different states. I know in North Jersey, nothing happened. Maybe in Camden area, which is basically Philly. Maybe something happened down there, but that's northern New Jersey. Nothing happened. New Jersey's kind of like 3 states, kind of like New York's kind of like that a little bit too. You have upstate New York, which is totally different. Lots of about Second Amendment, lots of gun owners up there and people into Second Amendment.
I guess that's like Illinois. Like Westwood always says, most of Illinois is nothing like Chicago. It's separate. It's a different culture.
Jersey, you got northern New Jersey, you got South Jersey, and then you have the Jersey Shore. It's really really totally different. I mean, it's totally different.
Interesting. One last thing to touch on. I will be doing an interview over on the Very Dow channel next week. The IP attorney's out of town, and I'm working on my prep, and the Very Dow's working on the prep for the interview. But we have the attorney, the IP attorney, or the patent attorney, coming back, and because Reggie got another patent released. And so we'll be talking about the difference in this newest one coming out. And also Coinbase was denied its second bite at the IPR, the inter partes review. They tried another appeal to the patent tribunal judges, and they slapped it down and said no. So, which is pretty unheard of. The first round was unheard of to get that appeal denied, and so to get a second one is really significant and shows how strong Reggie's patents are. And so I'm pretty excited about that, and going to be talking about that over on the Very Dow channel next week. That'll be out next week.
Nice.
So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, definitely good stuff.
And all the timing of this is perfect, of course.
Give everyone a quick update on Celsius. They have been, so Celsius was the crypto lending app that went down. They've issued everyone claim codes. So it's easiest to claim your funds through PayPal or Venmo. And as long as your email address is the same in either PayPal or Venmo as it was in the Celsius app, then you'll have a button in there that says enter your claim code. And you put your claim code in and your funds appear. So they sent out emails yesterday on how much Bitcoin and how much ETH you're going to get back. So at least people got something back. It wasn't obviously what it's worth now, which sucks, but I mean, at least it's better than having no funds, I guess. So I guess look at it as, I guess look at it as a lesson that not your keys, not your coins.
Well, it's interesting that the government seizes this crypto when things are high and then holds on to it and then returns it to these injured parties when it's low, but then they return it in USD, and then they issue these statements that says, oh, by the way, we're going to be selling some of that Bitcoin that we seized from Mt. Gox or FTX or whatever in the next few months, so that they can manipulate the price of crypto.
Well, it's all a game. I mean, look, I got caught up in the lending app things. I like the idea of earning interest and passive income, and I'm a big passive income guy. So to me, it was a cool thing. I did always have the rule, though, of not more than 20% of your holdings to screw around and stuff like this. And I think I even took it a step further. I said you should really have no more than 5% in any particular app. So if you want to play the lending game or the trading game, don't use more than 20% of your crypto that you have. And out of that 20%, divide it up into 4 different apps or exchanges or services. This way you really minimize your risk. So if you followed that rule, you didn't get burned too bad. So again, they did give people are getting some money back. We're supposed to get shares of stock in a company that's not publicly traded yet. So we'll see how that works. But again, they did distribute some liquid crypto back to people. It's easy to get. Just copy and paste your claim code into either PayPal or Venmo, and voila, your funds are there. And then once it's in PayPal or Venmo, transfer it out to your own wallet. So you're, at least holding the private key or, safe.
Get it in your possession.
Get it in your possession.
Oh, goodness.
I wouldn't waste time, though. They say you have up to a year to claim this stuff. I wouldn't waste time. I would do it. I did mine yesterday. I mean, as soon as I got the email, within a couple hours, I was copying, pasting, and claiming. So I would not waste. Don't make this sooner rather than later things. You don't want them to say, hey, who knows? Oh, we ran out of funds, or oh, we got hacked, or who the hell knows what they say. Get your funds and get the hell out of there is my advice.
Yeah. Every other day I see another solar flare article, oh, the grid's going to go down because of the solar flare. I don't know if they just keep putting that out there so that they can shut down the internet whenever they want and say, oh, well, we told you there was a solar flare the other day, in case something breaks or some news comes out and they need to be able to, cut off communication for a couple of days. But whatever the great excuse is, or they need to push the CBDC out there. So they need to be able to, wipe everybody's account. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. But
I thought they were going to do something. See, I thought they would have done something tonight to keep people from watching this Tucker Putin interview.
Did he say something about that Elon has already put chips in everybody's head in America? I feel like he said that. Now I need somebody that watched it to validate.
You got to go back and rewatch it.
I got to go back and rewatch it.
I know I watched it, but I was I was cleaning and doing stuff, and I was listening to it, but I wasn't like fully like.
I know.
Listen.
He has kind of like, well, he's talking and then that other dude is talking in English, but he's translating. So it's like, da dun da dun da dun da. It's kind of hard to like.
Yeah, it's
dial in for 2 hours.
I was thinking 45 minutes. It was 2 hours, and I'm a little antsy. So for me to sit down for 2 hours and do something is very difficult. I'm jumping through the roof.
Thorand says no, he did not. But Thorand sometimes, well, it's not Friday, so maybe you haven't had too many cocktails yet. But sometimes he'll have a whiskey or two. I'll see. Yeah, I'll have to go back and listen again. Maybe I can listen to it on like 1.5 or 2. Too funny. All right. Well, I think we gave everybody kind of a good overview. So I think it's exciting. The truth is coming out, and everybody's kind of at least interested in that's the other thing, is there was a lot of interest in this, and that's a positive
thing. Great. Yeah. So if you didn't watch it, definitely go back and watch it. It's at least worth watching. If you might not agree with Putin. You don't have to, but at least see what he says, and at least hear the other side and why they invaded Ukraine and why all this is going on, and get the counter story, and then make your own decision based on what you're hearing. But I think at the very least, this proves that the media is controlled. The fact that they freaked out so much about this coming out. Why? This is just journalism. Why would you not want this to come out? Why is that a problem? So that should be alarming to everybody. The fact that maybe you don't have to agree with them, but my mind's not made up fully either. I'm not saying, hey, he's the best guy in the world. Like, I don't know. I don't know what.
Right. Yeah.
What I do know is that the media is against we the people. It's controlled. And why don't they want us to see this stuff is very alarming. Why did they have to send out, I think it was the Department of Defense today, had to come out and say, don't believe anything in this Putin interview. He's lying. Like, what? Like, they interviewed an Ariat, and you're telling us don't believe anything in it.
Anything. Yeah.
What that tells me? Don't believe anything that is being fed to us by the mainstream. Why are we supposed to believe the Mockingbird media after everything they've done to us over the last few years? Oh yeah, let's just take them for their word. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, Joe, I shared it on Twitter and I put it in the Telegram. Joe Rotes from World Blockchain Roundtable did a interview with the one of the Wiki founders. What's his name? Sanders? Larry, Sanger. And he at the end, he's there, they start having this conversation about how it got founded, how it was founded, all this kind of stuff. And he said, they both said when they're trying to censor something, that's the thing you need to be watching. Sure. And today CNN was, they literally cut away from when Trump was speaking after coming out from the Supreme Court hearings. They literally started laughing hysterically and cut away from hearing what Trump is saying. Now, this is a man who's running for president in an election year. And the majority of the nation is standing behind him, and they do not want you to hear what he has to say about his defense or his response of coming out of this hearing. I mean, that's what you should be listening to. What are they covering up? What do they not want you to hear?
Oh, I know what else the Department of Defense guy said today. He said, don't believe anything Putin says, and Americans overwhelmingly support funding Ukraine. Nope. I mean, who the hell? Most people don't realize it, but if you really sat people down and said, look, you can't afford to send your kids to college. There's American children without food, and we're funding freaking Ukraine. If you really explain to people, they'd be like, what? What do you? It's just that people don't realize it's fashionable. It's like the same people that were, shaming everyone about masks and stuff have a Stand With Ukraine thing in their front yard or something like that. It's like they don't even know what they're talking about. It's just like the new thing, So it's disgusting, but I can rant about this all day.
Oh, I know. I'm the same way. There is some footage of some fires. Supposedly, I don't know what we're seeing, but there's footage of fires supposedly in Moscow just as Tucker's interview drops. We'll see.
You got to question everything you see.
Everything.
Question it all. Yep.
Yeah.
That's the way to roll.
Yeah. So we'll see. But thanks for joining me. You guys, I appreciate you staying up late with me. Johnny, thanks for jumping in here with me and having my back once again. And happy birthday yesterday to Westwood. So tomorrow we'll be celebrating his birthday here on Happy Hour. I hope you guys can all join us.
Westwood, happy birthday.
Yeah. All right. Take care, guys. Make sure to critically think and watch everything that they're trying to hide from you.
Take care, you guys.
Bye.